We are having a very hot and dry summer this year, and watering the garden just enough to keep things alive can run up the water bill painfully high. My rain barrels are empty, and desperate times call for desperate measures. So I came up with something else to help water the garden without adding to the water bill. This is a dish pan. I keep it in the sink, and whenever we wash hands and dishes, it collects the water. When it's close to full, I put it in this nearby bucket. Now, when the bucket is close to full, it can be used for the garden. But if your garden isn't very close to the house like mine, then it won't be practical to take it to the garden every time. So I have this set up. Here's one of those plastic drums cut in half with a water faucet screwed into the side, near the bottom. I have a water hose attached to the faucet on this bucket. The bucket is on my porch, just outside the door. It's on top of a full-length barrel. The higher I have this bucket, the faster and further the water can travel through water hoses to get to my garden. Whenever my buckets by the sink are full, I just pour out the water into this barrel. I've also used this barrel with a water hose to clean out the kiddie pools my ducks use and send that water to the garden. Now, I keep the faucet off during the day because during the heat of the day is the worst time to water plants. More of the water will evaporate, and it might be a shock to the plants to suddenly get a lot of water during the heat. But having said that, I've watered plants during the heat of the day before, and they've survived fine. Often kids will play with the water hose during the hottest parts of the day, and it doesn't cause the grass to die. But still, I don't recommend it as best. If you water late in the evening or at night, the weather is cooler, allowing more time for the water to soak in and not be as shocking to the plants. Supposedly though, if the plants are wet overnight, there's a greater chance of rot or fungus. I've never noticed that to be a problem with late night watering, but I've read on the internet that it can happen, so it might. Early morning is considered the best time to water. That's when things are the coolest, and the plants can use the water to help them through the heat of the day. So often I'll start watering as soon as I get up. But sometimes I'll use the barrel water late at night because it's gotten too full throughout the day. I just turn on the faucet and the water can flow through all the hoses and to the garden. However, it's not always that easy. Sometimes the water seems to get stuck in the hose and it won't drain. When that happens, I can usually fix it by starting at the barrel and holding up the hose high over my head, which isn't that high because I'm short, and then I walk the length of the hose to the garden, holding up the water hose, helping it keep flowing until it comes out the other end. This helps create a siphon reaction, and often that's all it takes to get the water flowing well. If that doesn't work, I do it again. If that doesn't work, then I might have something jammed in the water hose that is preventing the flow, in which case I just hook it up to a regular faucet and turn it on full blast for a few minutes, and that usually flushes out whatever's in there. Hand dishwashing detergent and hand washing soap are very unlikely to hurt the plants, especially when so heavily diluted with water. Maybe if you have some really harsh chemicals and really wimpy plants, there might be a problem. But I've never had any problem with hand soap or dishwashing detergent hurting the plants. Another plus of collecting sink water is there's often food particles in that the plants can recycle to make fresh food. This might also help keep your sink from getting stopped up. You can also scoop out your bath water to deliver to the garden. Where I used to live, I had the plumbing arranged so the bathtub water automatically went out in the yard instead of the septic tank. That way, my kids could play in the sandbox and come in and take a bath and not mess up the septic tanks with sand. But, deep sad sigh, my kids don't play in the sandbox anymore. And I've moved to a place where that would be a harder plumbing job. A disadvantage of this is that the water drains out slowly even at the best of times. So you might have to just do something else for about 10 minutes in between moving the water hose in order to water multiple plants. Or, an option is to drain the barrel water into a bucket that's in the garden. Then you can just scoop it out and divide up the water loop that way. This may not be something you would want to do long term, but it can help save your garden during a drought without causing you to run any extra water.